Leave fear and move to love. Find a way. Believe you can and find a way. Leave fear and move to love. That'd be the message. That's the most important one. And when people ask the question, how? You ask your higher self, how?
And welcome everyone to another wonderful episode of Humanity 2.0 podcast, where we interview humans about humanity. Today's guest is Larry Bilotta, who is the author of This Is Not the Woman I Married. Larry, I'm so curious about this book, but before that, I have to ask you, sir, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm as good as I can be. I used to say years ago, I said, I'm as good as I can be, and it doesn't matter what's going on. And because I've said that, I'd say it over and over, it doesn't matter what's going on. Why would you say it doesn't matter what's going on? Because nothing that's going on is going to matter in any way. It's not going to affect me. I'm not going to react to it. And so not reacting to the world is like not becoming a reactor. And some people don't even know that they are reactors. They don't know. They don't realize it because they never called it a reactor. But that's really what you become. You become, I call it pinball. When you become a pinball, you're bouncing off every stimulation in your life.
Yeah.
And when you do that, that makes you less valuable to people.
Yeah. When I hear the word reactor, I'm thinking of like nuclear reactors.
Well, I'm talking about human reactions because we're on Humanity 2.0. So
yes, people go nuclear too.
Yes.
Almost feels like a life hack to separate yourself like that and not be affected by everything that's happening around you, but being just being you.
But you have to identify what a reactor is. And when you use the term pinball, you're realizing like a pinball hits everything. It bounces off everything and goes in erratic, unpredictable paths. That's what we know. It's a pinball that goes in erratic, unpredictable paths that we can't control. And so you don't feel good about that. I don't I don't want to be a pinball. So when I talk to people during the week, I ask them, do you feel you've been a pinball? They know that being a pinball is not a helpful, productive thing.
Yeah.
Because you're less valuable as a pinball than you are as a person who's stable and calm and actually realizes what they're thinking and how they're thinking. And so that's being a mindful person who's not a pinball.
Do you think that everyone has value?
Everybody has a value, but they can't see it. It doesn't matter what world religion you're involved in. All of them are all saying some form of you have value because you're a human being. But the whole idea is when you forget what you are, you're losing your value. You don't actually remember. There's a big Buddhist organization of millions of members, and their whole system is creating value. That's what they're all about, creating value. And so they hammer that into their members. This is what we're doing. We're creating value. So when you're having the thought of creating value, you think, maybe I can make something valuable here. Maybe I can contribute to something valuable here. Well, I'm not going to do it if I'm negative. I'm not going to do it if I'm fearful. I'm not going to do it if I'm in a darkened state. The idea of being valuable is really a really useful idea. Because if you don't feel valuable, you're not going to be valuable. If you feel valuable, like if you walk into a party, when you walk into a party and when you don't know everybody relates to this. When you walk into a party and you don't know everybody, the first thing that can happen to you is, what does everybody think of me? That's the first thing you do. Like, how do I look? What do they think of me? Is anybody judging me, right? So when you walk into the party, you walk in the party with fear. And when you walk into the party with fear, even though it's noisy and hectic, everybody knows you have fear. And when they know you have fear, they're going to give back that fear to you. And now you're going to feel it. And so now what kind of party are you going to have? Well, until you start drinking and you loosen the locks, you're not going to be very good, right? But you walk in the party with fear. And
Larry,
that's really a bad
I don't want to go to any parties with you. Okay, I'm not that person, Larry. When I go to a party, I am myself. I don't care about who's doing what, who's looking at where. The thing is you're
a very secure individual.
Well, not really. I just don't care anymore. At a certain point, you just stop caring and you understand that no one is really looking at you. There is a mirror in front of every single person when they're walking, through life, and they're thinking like, oh my God, they're looking at my hair, my teeth, my face, blah, 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 my clothes, my body, but they're not. They're actually looking at themselves because everyone has this mirror in front of them. And
That's
my
exactly
son,
right.
like he used to struggle with, body dysmorphia and just overall, insecurities, which it happens when you're a teenager. It happens. It's normal, part of life. But I told him that. I told him, no one is actually looking at you because, for one, they have that mirror in front of them constantly, but also they only care about themselves.
That's a very advanced concept. Because what you're saying is you're walking into a room and you think everybody's looking at you,
Right.
but they're not.
No.
They're looking at mirrors of themselves.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Do you know how advanced an idea that is? That's so advanced. They're looking at images of themselves.
Yeah.
That's not what people say. That's not what they think. That's not what they believe. They don't believe that at all, that everybody's looking at a mirror of themselves. They don't believe that. What they believe is we're all separate. We're all objects. We're all here and there and everywhere else. That's what we believe. And so we're looking at objects. That's what we think. That's what we believe. But you have a very advanced idea. Everybody's looking at themselves.
Yep.
Oh my God. That's so good.
Well, I'll send you an invoice. I also, I guess, the same logic applies to when you project onto other people, right? When you're mean to someone for absolutely no reason, you're not being mean to them. You're seeing something in them that reminds you of yourself. And you're like, I hate that about myself. So I'm just going to be mean. And I'm just going to react, like similar to what you were saying earlier with reacting to things. Not really the same, but similar. And so I guess when I see someone that's being mean for absolutely no reason, or someone that's super, super negative, I never take it personally anymore, because I understand that they're not mad or negative at me. They're, again, at themselves, at whatever previous thing happened to them that they're just not able to deal with. Maybe.
You know what I can say? I can say that this podcast is over because you just gave the most important idea of this podcast. The most important idea.
What's that?
Because once you learn that nobody's looking at you, they're all looking at mirrors. That's the most important idea. And now you backed it up to saying, like, oh, everybody's looking at themselves. And now that everybody's looking at themselves, they're all just like in a state where they don't see you. They see themselves over and over again. Like, wow, that's a really wonderful idea.
But is it possible, though, that, I guess we all change and we all evolve over time. So it's possible that when they only see themselves, eventually there's going to be cracks in the mirror and it's going to break, and eventually they'll see past themselves a little bit. And if they're still looking at you, or if they're looking in your direction, then they might pick something up from you and say, oh, I want to be like that. And I'm just going to get these little pieces and put my glue on my mirror and just kind of keep going. Or maybe the mirror breaks and they're done with it, and maybe they become evolved, or that 2.0. But
that's why the humanity 2.0 is 2.0.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I was just going to say that. You stole my line. Yeah. I mean, the whole purpose of the show is to allow humanity to have a stage and have a platform to be able to express themselves and how they view humanity, and us to explore your humanity, so that other people that maybe can take a break from these mirrors can kind of hear or see and chew on that there is more to us than what we're looking at. And we could be those 2.0 humans that lead with compassion and empathy first, instead of, leading with what can you do for me?
So valuable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Now, let me ask you, Larry, are you a good human, and why?
So my first reaction is, how would I know that? How would I know that?
You tell me.
And so now I go right to the subject of social media, which is like, have you been thinking about social media? No, it's coming to think about me. Social media is coming everywhere to think about me. And so what I see in social media is, I use the example of the party, but if I go to social media, what is that? That's people on their phones, people alone on their phones. And they have things like, I've got opinions. I got to share these opinions. I got to tell the world, because everybody thinks I'm valuable. I'm useful. I'm important. And so now the question becomes, do they really, if you're alone on your phone, does the world really think? And so there's a thing called likes, apparently. And likes is the device that gives people a dopamine and encouragement that they can't resist. And like, the more I started, I kept on living through the whole social change, I started to realize, so I keep hearing this thing about likes. Why does everybody want to have likes? Why is it? Why do they want to know about likes? Because that's the machine that drives the whole system. Likes. I like you. I like what you said. I like the way you look. I like, right? So all that's endorsement. And the more endorsement you get, the more dopamine you get.
Right.
And so it becomes a very shallow way to measure how human you are. It's a very shallow way, because it doesn't have any depth. I like 230, 550, 1,500 likes. what kind of likes are those? Those are people on their phones, for crying out loud. Are you trusting that? Are you trusting the likes you're getting?
It could have been the dog that just pressed the phone. It wasn't even a person. Could be a bot, people in other countries that are paid to do it for you. Now,
That's right.
You mentioned social media. There's actually a documentary called The Social Dilemma. It came out on Netflix in 2020, but it investigates the impact of social networking, and it features insights from tech executives that were in the space. And then it discusses mental health, the algorithm manipulation, polarization, and then expert interviews. So it goes into great detail about those tiny little things of the likes, the like button, the sounds.
Give it the title again. Huh? I think people should hear this.
Hang on a second. The Social Dilemma. It's on Netflix. Dilemma? Yes. It's an excellent movie or documentary, but you have people from all of the major tech companies. There are people from, Google, people from Facebook that were no longer with them. And so they were able to speak freely about it. And then you have other engineers that go into great detail on how certain things sound and how certain things look, and how, when you get a like, you get a notification. And this guy said, turn off all your notifications, just all of them, turn it off, because that too is triggering a response for you to go and get back on your phone, even though you were just on it for like 2-3 hours. But then, there's a notification. Someone liked you or someone liked your post. And then, like you said, all of those likes, the virality, attracting you to, make even more content because you want more response. Now, I worked in the social media space for 5 years. I still do. And for 4 of them, I was contracted through a production company with my own company, and their whole process of engineering formulas in order to get certain content to be in front of someone and to get someone to care immediately within 5 seconds. Now you see that everywhere. You see production companies that are presenting packages of, I can make your company go viral. We have to put these little things here in the video in less than a minute. And that's what they do, is they promote these services so that way that company can go viral. And that way everyone is talking about them. But really, what I believe makes a difference is the story behind the company as opposed to the product. I believe that it's no longer about the box. It's no longer about the box in front of you. It's about the people behind the box. That is what leads to connection. And then that's people go and seek them out. So that's my thing with my company. But the good thing is that they were not evil. They actually were good people who made good storytelling for businesses and brands. So that was cool. But I did manage like 3,000 people. And then I was in charge of teaching them and guiding them. And so I at times I did work with brands where their whole thing was, we just want to sell and we just want people to look at us, and how do we do that? And so I was in the room when these things were being discussed. So it's very interesting science, but it's also very destructive. However, there are things that can be said that are positive, because there is a lot of positive content out there, this show included. That's why also this show is here, because it's adding to that positive content. Now, just about everyone that I come across says, social media is bad because of da-da-da-da-da. But that's not necessarily true, because there is good content out there that does make a difference. There is content out there that inspires someone to create change or to do something. Activism is a big deal, and now digital activism is a big deal. And so people are coming together more as a community because they can communicate via social very quickly. So there's a lot to be said for both sides. But because I guess having been in the space for 5 years, I can say, you know what, I can definitely argue both sides. But I believe that if we are responsible, and then we kind of, look at things or pivot differently, then we could probably, change the tide, really. So I love it when someone says, oh yeah, social media is bad. And I'm like, hold on a second.
So see, you've got the background to actually talk about it.
Yes.
I like to hear that.
Yes. Yeah, it's a wild ride too, because it wasn't supposed to happen. I was supposed to be making films this whole time, and then I just got put over in this other world where everything was made in a day or two or a week or a month, and I would travel across the country doing this, and I'd get paid pretty darn good. I made more money than I probably ever made, and I was doing really well. But after a certain point, you get burned out because you're just exhausted. Social media is very heavily consumed. So you're constantly creating things that are months ahead, or you're recording for maybe 12 hours to produce content that's going to last you 6 months. So there's a lot, physical and mental activity that's put in there. Whereas, if you're working on a movie, a film can take anywhere from 6 months to a couple years to make. So you have more time. But it still is. It's not was experience. It is experience still, because I run my own company now. But yeah, it's interesting for sure.
Yeah, I think what it comes down to is in terms of humanity 2.0, is it becomes your intention And this is the intention you hold in your mind.
Yes.
And what's in your mind is going to make what ultimately becomes your action. But you've got to ask yourself all the time to be alert and to be aware of, what am I intending? What am I intending this to be? What am I intending this to look like? And so when you start to get to places that become like, I got to chase something because it's gonna give me money, like that becomes a survival thing. And so what you start looking at is the world of fear, and the world of love becomes what you end up looking at. Like, am I going to be living more in fear, or are you going to be living more in love? Because the more you live in love, the more you're human, and the more you live in fear, the more you're not.
That is very true.
That this becomes the final thing, because that's driving your intention. Am I living in fear? Because when you're in the world of fear has got so much complexity and so much twists and turns and distortions. One of the things I like to talk about is the idea of analysis. And analysis, it sounds so safe and so normal, but analysis can easily take you into fear, and it can actually drop you in fear to stay there. Because I talk to people every day who are in troubled marriages. And when they're in troubled marriages, they're in a stress state. And so their likelihood of analyzing is real high. And they're analyzing because they're trying to figure out the answer. Because the more I think I analyze it, the more I think I know. The more I think I know, the more I think I'm smart. And you combine that into emotional injury, like a troubled marriage. That's like a recipe for a disaster, because now you're going to be dropped into fear in your analysis. And as you analyze deeper and deeper, analyzing to be able to, like, that's what the idea of what gaslighting, right? Avoidance, right? All these terms, right? People like them because they make them feel smart. They make them feel like they're doing something, but they're not doing anything. They're not an expert. They're not an authority. They're just throwing labels at what hurt them. And so that's, when you throw a label at something that hurt you, at someone who hurt you, you're now in this very big place called fear, and you're not in love. You've left love, and now you're in fear, but you don't really know you're in fear, because the justification is so strong to be doing something that you thought was smart, or thought saved you, or thought that made you feel safe. Now you're not even thinking that you're in fear. Like, it doesn't even look like fear to you, right? Because the world is governed by perception. Everybody's perception is governing everything. And so because we're governed by perception, we have no steady thing to depend on. And so that's why I always talk about the world of fear and the world of love, because they're two absolute opposites.
Yeah. And we will get more into that for sure in a little bit. You made me think about what you said about analysis dropping people into fear.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but when I think about analysis, I also think about, if it goes to the extreme, it's kind of like obsessive compulsive, to where you're over analyzing, and then that leads to the fear. Is that right? Yes, I'm so smart. I'm 3 for 3. So marriage and humanity, humans get married. Why do we get married? Why?
So, the Hallmark Channel.
Yes.
And even if you don't watch the Hallmark Channel, you know the Hallmark Channel, because the Hallmark Channel is all about love, right? And so it's about two people finding each other and finding that they can start to feel good and feel happier, right? And so in the movies that Hallmark makes, they have characters around the two lovers. The two potential lovers have characters, mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, right, who are giving them advice. And what are they always advising them? Like, if you're in love, you're happy. So it's like a core bedrock of the whole system, right? The whole Hallmark Channel. If you're in love, you're happy. Really? Is that really true? Right? So Hallmark will never go to a really sad, angry, frustrated, mean. They won't do that. Right. They don't develop those themes. And so to do that, you got to watch Netflix, right?
Or Oxygen Network.
So the reason I use Hallmark is because that is a premise that the whole thing is built on. When you find love, you find happiness. And every movie ends with a kiss, over and over and over again. Every movie ends with a kiss. And so, in fact, when people see a kiss, they get happy. They just have to see a kiss to get happy.
Yep. Yep.
So, I'm saying that in the context of marriage.
Mm.
So, the real world is not Hallmark. The
Mm.
real world has a lot of painful things in it. So I have a barber who is a woman, and she talks about her life.
Mm-hmm.
And she's got 4 kids, and she's got connections to the school. She's got connections to the community. She's got all these connections that make her life normal. And so everything about her life is normal.
Mm-hmm.
And so because the more normal your life is, the more you feel grounded. The more you feel not insane, the more you feel not weird. So that's what people strive for. They strive to create a normal life. Just be normal. That's really what we're all trying to do. We're all trying to be normal. And so if you have a weird, unconventional thought, you got to find some normal way to convey it, right? Like a podcast, right? You have some normal, conventional thought, right? But what happens in marriage is that the man or the woman becomes what I call the weakest link. The man or the woman becomes the weakest link in the chain. What's the weakest link? So for 15 years, I've been using a scale of 10 to 0. I call the chaos to purpose scale. And so when a person is raised in purpose, they're raised in a good home. They get good values from that good home. And they get a mom and dad who love each other, and a mom and dad who communicate with that kid and make that kid prepared for purpose. They're going to become something, right? And so it's a great place to grow up. And so what happens is sometimes the purpose kid will go to the bottom of the scale and marry the chaos kid.
Mm.
And I think it has a lot to do with the way they were raised. Because what typically parents do, who really are very productive people,
Mm-hmm.
is they help the less fortunate people.
Mm.
And they help them physically, materially. They help them in all the ways they can. And the child sees that. They see these less fortunate people being helped by mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes like, well, if I should help these less fortunate people, maybe I should marry the less fortunate. And so that's what they do. They become attracted to a chaos kid. And a chaos kid is raised in some form of abandonment, some form of abuse, some form of neglect. So when I say some form, I mean emotional or
Sure.
physical. And so some form, when you get a life that's dishing out abandonment, abuse, and neglect,
Mm-hmm.
you're now carrying a real big load. Your subconscious mind is now loaded with the ideas that happened back there. And those things are alive. They're happening right now. If people want to live in the present, why can't chaos kids live in the present? Because they're living in the right now moment of their subconscious mind. That's why psychologists tell us 90% of your life is living in the subconscious mind. Well, we don't know what that means because we don't have an inventory of what's in the subconscious. We don't know what's down there. But if you're living in abandonment, abuse, and neglect, that's what's in your subconscious. Big, deep, like I like to illustrate it as a vat, a great big vat. And that vat is loaded with urges and needs and longings.
Mm-hmm.
And those things have no words. And above that big vat is a little jar. That little jar is the conscious mind that has words. And that's what we think we are. We think we are the conscious mind. But we're not just the conscious mind. We're also the subconscious, and the subconscious can come up into the conscious and literally grab you and take you with some of these ideas that can be very troubling.
So I have to ask, because Hallmark, going back to that subject just now with the chaos person and the other person, can they survive? Can they be married and be happy?
So I've been interviewing people for 15 years with the scale. I've been asking the scale for 15 years. And so I've got a lot of data because I've been interviewing people about the scale. And so what is the scale? The scale says 10, 9, 8, you're raised in purpose. If you're a 10, mom and dad loved each other. If you're a 9, they had some fights. If you're an 8, they had more fights. Okay. But you're still raised in a purpose home, right? It's still a home that stays together, and it's a complete home. So that's the 10. And then there's the middle of the scale. I call that the twilight zone, where they don't really raise you. And then chaos begins at 5 and goes down to 0. So that's the scale I've been using. I've been using it over and over again. It's never changed. And so I get people to locate themselves on the scale. So like I have a program, and all the time I'm using the scale. So people get into the program, they're raised at a 10. So they're a 10. Then I get the story of the spouse, and they're raised at a 2. A 10 married to a 2. So now we think, well, what's a 10 and what's a 2? Well, a 10 is the values of kindness and acceptance and allowing and intelligence and education and right. All these good things are up at the top of the scale. What's at the bottom of the scale? Fear, anger, loneliness, anxiety, worry, all that stuff is meanness is down there, right? So all the stuff of fear is down at the bottom of the scale. So we have a scale that says love is at the top and fear is at the bottom. And so when you start realizing, oh, okay, so what happens as I work with the people that I talk to is that they're talking about their chaos kid. And they get their chaos kid, and their chaos kid is, I'm not talking to the chaos kid, I'm talking to the purpose kid. Or sometimes I'll talk to the chaos kid married to the chaos kid. So a 4 married to a 3. Now, isn't that interesting? A 4 married to a 3.
Well, it makes sense.
Well, what happens? They're trying to find intimacy. They're trying to find a way to unite and be close. Well, how can a 4 married to a 3 get intimacy? And what they have is they have moments that are fleeting and go away.
Yeah.
And so that's what happens. They can't stay. And so why are they talking to Larry Bilotta? Because they're not happy. They're not hallmarking.
It sounds like trauma bonding to me. I mean, we talked about labels earlier, but trauma bonds, it's strong.
Trauma,
it is what it is.
When you say it's trauma bond is a little one-liner, trauma bond, it's a lot more messy, and a lot more complicated, and a lot more difficult than a one-liner like trauma bond. Like the trauma and the word bond don't even belong together.
No,
they don't. They don't belong together. I would take bond and throw it away, right? Because it's trauma and it's not bonding. There's no bonding in trauma, right? They only look like they're injured birds and are starving, and they're coming together in this lonely little place called trauma, but they're sharing trauma, but they're not bonding over it. So that becomes like one of those oxymorons.
One of those, yeah. I'll disagree for now, but you didn't answer my question though. Can a chaos person be successfully married to a 10 person?
I've had some people who are chaos kids who had moments when they were called to some higher purpose. And because they were called by some higher purpose, that higher purpose is still in them. And so they want to change what they're doing. They do. And so I talk about it takes one to heal a marriage. What do I talk about that? Because one person who starts to change their energy, starts to change their thinking, starts to change their mind, starts to change their perception, that person has a chance to change what they feel. And as they change what they feel, they're married to a reactor. A reactor is a person who reacts to everything. So can you become that person who starts moving up the scale and let the reactor follow you? And so that's what happens if they're really good. If they're really good at becoming that person who moves up the scale, who actually locates where they were, like he was a 3, and now he starts getting the ideas of 6 or the ideas of an 8. And because when you get the ideas, your mind is literally moving your location. So you're not stuck where you were born. You literally can move. You can move up the scale. And I've seen it. I've seen people move up the scale. And when they move up the scale, their life gets better. They become happier people. And so when a person starts becoming a happier person, even though they were a chaos kid, because they're moving up that scale, they start to feel happier and start to feel happier. Their reactor now doesn't believe that. The reactor starts like, happy? How could you be happy? I can't be happy. How could you be happy? Right. So that's the first reaction of the reactor. But as that person keeps on living that way, starts living in the values of kindness and genuineness and sincerity and intelligence and all these good love ideas, they start becoming a better person. They start becoming a better person, so that what happens now, the reactor had to decide, am I going to follow that person I'm married to? Am I going to follow them? And so as we start to look at the time of people growing up moving up that scale, sometimes reactors decide not to. And the reason is because they're so connected to the darkness of the way they were raised that they can't even follow this person who's moving up the scale. They can't follow their happiness. They don't deserve their happiness, and they don't want to follow their happiness. And so that there'll be some people who live like that, and that's like the end of that. That they can't have a marriage anymore, right? But why can't they? Because that chaos kid has decided, I want to stay in chaos. I want to live there, right? And if somebody decides they want to live there, you have to let them live there, right?
Yep.
And I've had some of those 15 years I've been doing this. I've had some stories of people who have stayed in their chaos.
No,
and as
thank
they
you.
stay in their chaos, their spouse is getting happier and happier, and starts to become a person who feels better. And normally, when they think about their children, what do they think about? I want my kids to be happy, and now I'm feeling happy. I want my kids to feel happy. And so that becomes their motivation. Their motivation is not, I need to fall in love so I can be happy. It's their kids. They live for their kids. And I've seen it. Boy, they really do live for their children.
Yeah.
And because they live for their kids, they're not looking for love as the song goes, all the wrong places. But it's possible to move up the scale. One person can.
Well, I identify with, being of that, I guess, lower scale and then moving up. I don't know why, but I have moved up tremendously. But I wasn't all the way at the bottom. I wasn't like an angry person, but I just had a lot of things that happened. But for some reason, the resiliency and the positivity and the hope, it all was there. It was all embedded from the beginning, and it never left, even though the worst things that could possibly happen to you have happened to me. And then I married someone who was married 3 times. No idea why I should have put that together. But anyway, he had his
He was
issues.
charismatic, wasn't he?
Well, yeah, I guess so. But I think it was because we were friends first for 2 years, and then we kind of like shared everything. And then I started dating other people and telling him about these people. And then eventually I started comparing them to him because he was a nice person. And then I thought, oh, I should probably date you because I'm comparing everyone to you. Similar to what you said, where one person's moving up and the other one chooses to stay at a lower level. And then it just becomes like impossible to be in the same place and eventually the same house. And then you file for divorce, yesterday, which I did. So this is like really crazy that we're here right now. But I did file my paperwork yesterday.
So you know about people who remarry? Why do those people remarry? They don't go into a program. They don't do any kind of improvement. They remarry because they have something that they still miss. And they bounce into each other after the divorce, and it could be years after the divorce. And they bounce into like, why did I ever leave you? Right. And so they're starting to be in a different frame of mind. One of them, especially, it's down to that. It takes one. It takes one who's going to be in that higher place. The person who goes to the higher place is to be followed. And so that's really what the job of the chaos kid is. The chaos kid is like, can I follow you out of this place where I was born? Can I follow you out of the place I was born? And that becomes like almost unbelievable for a lot of people. Like, can I follow this person who's going up the scale? Can I follow them out of here? And so that's really like riding the train out of the bad place.
Right. Yeah.
It's a good idea to follow the person who's actually moving to a better place.
But I agree that it has to be a personal decision, because if they just, stay where they are and they don't decide to follow them, then, there's nowhere to go from there. So I feel like for instance, my soon to be ex, like he decided that he didn't deserve anything better. He didn't want anything better. He wanted to stay down there. And so that's what he chose. If he wanted to evolve and move forward and follow whatever, he could have, but he chose not to.
Well, that's what makes marriage so great. Is marriage is the place where you talked about the mirrors. What is marriage? Marriage is the most intimate relationship of all relationships. It's not friends. It's not family. It's not casual acquaintances. It's intimacy. And because you're in this intimate place, everything is all out there for that person to feel.
Right.
And so if you think about you are separate from them and they are separate from you, if you think that way, you perceive that, then that's how it's going to be. They're going to be separate. But if you start to see that person is an image of myself, that person is mirroring back myself. And so my wife died in 2019. So I lost my mirror. I was without a mirror for 4 years. And during that time, for 4 years, no woman wanted to talk to me and talk in terms of dating. There was no opportunity. until I met my wife. And then that was the time when I was going to fall in love again. Right. And so when I literally got a new mirror, I got a new mirror. And so my first wife, Marcia, was very strong, a very strong woman. She felt like strong about everything. And, but in my life, I couldn't like take strong changed me, but it was kind of hard to be with strong. So what I did is I married up again, and I married a nicer, kinder, strong woman, a nicer, kinder, strong woman. And it's really great to have a mirror. Oh, it's just the best thing ever. Because when you start to learn from that mirror, you're now going somewhere. Because, when you talk about humanity 2.0, my 2.0 was having a mirror that I can learn from and enjoy myself learning. Like, here's a great scene for you. So she's working on her phone. It's late at night. She's working on her phone. And I feel like I want to get a kiss and a hug, right? Because I'm going to bed. So I want a kiss and a hug. But she's looking at her phone, right? She's looking at Facebook shorts, right? And so what I did is I mirrored unhappiness, right? And so I started to become irritated by her phone and thus irritated by her, right? And I started to show that. And I started to go, wow, why am I doing this? This is not what I want. And so she got really upset in her strong way. She got upset with me. And so I started realizing, you know what this is? This is the opportunity to say, I did something wrong. I did something painful. I was judging her phone. I was judging her, right? And the moment I apologized, it all got better.
Right.
But that realization wasn't sudden.
Couldn't you just tell her that you wanted that? Like, couldn't you just verbally tell her?
That when you're possessed by the feeling of what you want, you're literally possessed and you're blinded. And when you're possessed and blinded, you actually don't know what I could come out and say. You don't have any thoughts of directness or authority. This is what I want. You don't think that way. You're possessed. So you can't, everything is slimy and slithering and right. Like I'm judging her phone,
Right.
Like, why am I didn't even know I was judging her phone. I was just feeling good judging it.
Right.
Right. Because when you're judging, you feel good. You feel temporarily 10 seconds, you feel good. Right. And so it's a kind of like a possession that takes you over. And so, but that was my mirror. My mirror gave me back what I was giving her. And it was a great thing. It was really, really useful. And I'm just really happy that it did last long.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I'm happy that you found someone again. That's amazing. I know it's not exactly the same situation because your first wife passed away.
Yes.
So with the other side of things where, people divorce and then they find someone else and maybe they get married, maybe they take their time, get to know this person and, eventually get there maybe. But is it possible for the divorced person to be happy and not carry, stuff from the previous one into the new one?
There are stories that I've heard over the years of the second marriages. And the second marriage becomes happy and the family around them talks about how good they are together, right? And so it's possible to heal something in yourself when you remarry. It's possible to realize something in yourself when you remarry. It's possible for you to look at the world differently when you remarry. And so all that's possible. And so the chances of that second marriage doing better become a likely thing. And then what happens when those things are not happening? You don't realize things. You don't see things. You're not, what you're looking for is I want somebody to give me a feeling. And when you want somebody to give you a feeling, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get that feeling you want because you're putting the load on the person out there and saying, come back and feed me. Well, that's not going to last very long, right? And the other thing I want to say in falling in love again is when you fall in love again, you're trying to be at your charismatic best. And when you're at your charismatic best, that's not going to last a long time because you can't keep your charisma going. You can't.
Or can you?
You can't keep that happiness and that upbeatness going when you step into daily life. You can't do it. Now, you can go into a party with your charisma, but you can't step into daily life with your charisma because
I don't know, Larry.
It won't keep going.
I've done it for 41 years. No, I'm kidding. I mean, I kind of have, but maybe 30. But anyway, So let me ask another question. And I'm not, these aren't people that really exist. These are made up questions. Yeah. Let me see. Hang on. This is a good one. Okay. So let's say that the person that got divorced, right? They meet this person that's really awesome. And like everything that they wanted out of the first one, they got from the other one within within the shortest time ever. And that other person remarks that let's just say the female makes them feel at peace and brings back feelings in them that were, not around. What do you make of that when someone, I guess, like enters into that's Hallmark calling.
Oh,
it's a complaint. So I'll rephrase it too because it's very confusing and convoluted. But what do you make of the situation when someone says to another, like, hey, you have kind of brought back things in me that were not present anymore. And I feel like I'm safe with you. I feel like I'm able to express love again and be, a full person again. What do you make of that?
You know what I call that? Marrying the healer. Marrying the healer. Because when you marry the healer, you're marrying a person who's got a special sense, a special kind of authority, a gift. All that is in the healer. And when the healer steps into your life, you literally can find some peace because the person has the ability to create a peaceful environment that you never had before. Because what if you were a chaos kid, married to a chaos kid, and chaos was slamming into each other, and then you step out of that marriage and finally leave that person, and then you meet the healer. And the healer has a time in their life when they need to heal. Well, what are they going to do? They're going to marry somebody who they can heal. Mm-hmm. And so they've got the ability to do it, and they do it. And so now that's going to be successful. But that's not like a pattern. That's not a thing that's going to keep on going, because when I say it's not a pattern, because how many people can meet the healer? Well, mm-hmm. Not many can meet the healer, right?
Right.
Because we're talking about billions of variables. This is a world with billions of variables. And because there's billions of variables, you can't lock anything into, it's like this and does this every time. It's not like that. Nothing's predictable, because that's the way this place is made. So now that there's nothing predictable, if you meet the healer and you find the healer, that means that person's healing your own mind, bringing you peace that you never had, and introducing you to ideas that you never had. And now that person's introducing you to, this is like a very safe place for you. It's like you were swimming with sharks, and now you're on an island and you're feeling like there's two people on the island. And one person is the healer. Like, well, geez, I got lucky to be able to land on a safe place where there's no shark.
Yeah, that's preferred. Right. Well, nice to meet you. I am a healer. Today's society often judges what we don't understand. Big shocker. When it comes to humanity and marriage, what is it about marriage that we just don't understand? We get it wrong all the time. This is your time to shine as a marriage expert.
So what we want love. What we don't want is we don't want fear. And so this is a very simple, very big idea. We don't want love. We don't want fear. We want love. And so now, people, all the people that teach are all trying to tell us that we're all divine beings, but we forgot who we are. And so anything that helps us remember that we are love and not fear will help us in some way. So now we get into the details of living. And when we get into the details of living, you think, fear, I don't want, love, I do. So how do I even know what fear is? How do I know what love is? And so the idea of moving to love is a really big, important idea. If I want to be humanity 2.0, I need to move to love. If I want to be the humanity 1.0, I need to move to fear, right? Because that's the like 1.0, 2.0. Okay, fear must be in 1.0, right? And so if I have a 2.0 of anything, it's got to be moving towards love. And so how can I do it? Well, when I was married in 1974, and I married Marcia, I didn't know anything about life, purpose, affections, nothing. And so I had to learn everything from scratch. And so what I started to do is I started to become somehow the learner. Now, what drove that? What drove it was my pain provider. My pain provider was Marcia.
Mm-hmm.
Marcia was very good at dishing out pain. And so I was learning from pain. And so when you look at all of the people who teach, all the wise people, they all say, when you're suffering, you will learn. When you're suffering, you'll learn. And that's really true. I've seen it in my years of teaching. People who are suffering can learn.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a pain provider is. A pain provider is a person who provides the suffering that allows you to learn. It allows you to ask questions. It allows you to find meanings. It allows you to discover things and realize this was not like that, but now I can become this, right? And so in that big picture of leaving fear and moving to love, that's what everybody's trying to do. We're all trying to find a way to do that. But we have to have the idea in our mind first. Leave fear, move to love. And so that's really what my humanity is like. 1.0 is fear, 2.0 is love.
Do you feel you're at the 2?
Am I? Since I got married and now I have a new mirror, I think I'm moving in that direction.
Okay, well, that's good. That's a good answer.
More purposely and more deliberately.
Well, you answered finally the first question of, are you a good human? So way to go. If you would tell us your why behind what you do and then tell us what you do.
The why has to do with, so I interview people on the phone all over the world. And I do that because people find me on the internet. And why do they find me? Because I'm in the marriage business. And so when they find me, they're in all different kinds of conditions. But one thing for sure is they're always living in fear. Somehow, some way, they're living in fear. They don't know, for instance, very few people who I talk to know what mindfulness is. Now, you can throw a rock and hit a book on mindfulness on Amazon, right? Because it's everywhere. There's all kinds of books on mindfulness. These people I talk to, they never read them. Why? Because that's not where their mind is not moving in a path where they can find mindfulness, right? Like a Vanessa podcast. How can somebody find that? Well, they find it almost by luck and chance, but inside they're making a decision that they want to find Vanessa's podcast because they want to find something that's true, something that rings true for them. Humanity 2.0. Well, there must be a 1.0. That's right. And so I need to get to this place. I need to get to this better place. And so the idea of leaving fear and moving to love is really what guides everything I'm doing. I'm trying to find a way to help people get out of the ocean and get to the beach. Because the ocean is where all the conflict is. The beach is where all the peace is. And so getting out of the ocean and getting to the beach is really what I'm making an effort to teach. And so I think every single person I talk to, when they tell me all their situations are very convoluted, very complex, I listen to it and I'm thinking, I don't want to hear this. I want to hear about your childhood. I want to hear about your childhood. And so every time I talk to people, virtually every time, they go to their adult life. They start talking about their situations in their adult life. I go, I don't want this. I want your childhood. Go back to your childhood. I have to keep reminded. The first 10 years, the first 10. Like, oh, you want the first 10? I thought you wanted to know that my father just died. You know, I want you to know that my wife is mad at me because. So I have to keep going back to childhood because childhood is the beginning of everything.
Yeah.
And because it's the beginning of everything, I have to keep going back there. And I have to drag people back because they don't want to go. They want to talk about the present life as an adult.
Yeah, they want to talk about David and take out the trash.
Yes, that's right.
Not that, when I was little, the trash can fell on me,
Yeah.
Its name was David. Yeah, I agree with that. I really do believe that there is a lot of it rooting to childhood. You're 100% right on that for sure. But people don't want to look at that. That is also true. Very, very true.
So I'm looking for childhood all the time. So when I watch movies, I always look at childhood references all the time. And I'm looking for it. But when I see it, I go, oh my God, that's there? It's there in this big movie? Like, that's a big, like, this childhood reference?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't see it. They don't even see it. They don't, like, what did he just say? They just miss it completely because they're not ready. And that's why I'm trying to stay at the job of waking people up that childhood is going to take everything you do, everything that you're going to make in the world, creating value. You create value in marriage, but it's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard, and you're going to learn a lot, but you got to be willing to learn and have the idea in your mind that I'm going to learn from this. That's why I'm talking this way about marrying my second wife after Marcia's death, is that I see her as my mirror. And when you said mirrors, I lit up like a Christmas tree because I'm only tuned in to the idea like, oh my gosh, she's saying something fabulous. Mirror, everybody's a mirror. They're not looking at you. They're looking at themselves in their mirror.
Well, I'm glad that I lit you up like a Christmas tree. Yeah. That's wonderful. Though why you would think I wouldn't, I don't know. No. Tell us about your book. There is a book. You are an author, so you have a book. Tell us about this book, and then also after, tell us where we can find all your work online, socials, all that good stuff.
So I spend like 10 years talking to guys, men, and the men called me with marriage trouble. And what I know about these men that call me is they don't know that the childhood put them in this marriage. And the childhood is driving everything. So I had to put it all together, and I finally got it together in a book. And it was like a lot of finally. That was a big, big job. And so when you finally put a book together and make it make sense, the book's got to be for somebody. And what it's for is men, the men I'm talking to, literally the men I'm talking to. And so why do they take the book, This Is Not the Woman I Married? Because what I've been talking to is men who say, this is not the woman I married. The woman I married was, and then they come up with a list of qualities, right? And so what happens is they're married to buckers, Buckers. A bucker is a person from a troubled childhood who goes through a 3-step process. And they don't know they're going through a 3-step process. They don't publish that. They don't say that. But the woman is going through the 3-step process. And so what happens is from the subconscious comes a thought, an urge. And the urge is to literally be like their childhood home. And it's troubling. So they go through the 3-step processes. Number 1, stop. I'm not doing that. That's what the woman does. Stop. I'm not doing that. Step 2, I'm going to borrow a value from somebody else. And they borrow value typically from the person they marry. And they borrow that value, and that could be it could be kindness, it could be sensitivity, it could be listening, all those kind of qualities. They'll borrow them, and they'll become so convincing in their ability to borrow that value that the person they marry thinks that they have that value. And they'll say, oh, you're just like me. No, you're not. Because they're borrowing the value. And so the first step is stop. I'm not doing that. Step 2, I borrow a value. Step 3, I live it out. I live it as if I have it. And so we're talking about all kinds of people, women who've become sports figures, politicians, scientists, people in religion, all kinds of people are buckers because they're actively, consciously fighting their mind. That's what they're doing, actively, consciously fighting their mind. And that is a hard job. That's a hard thing to do because when these men are marrying these women, they think they're marrying a wonderful woman, but they're not. They're marrying a bucker. And when they find this is the pattern, because I've been studying this for 15 years, what a bucker does is they snap. Why do they snap? Because they're fighting their mind. That 3-step process is the process of fighting your mind. Stop, I'm not doing that. I'm doing this instead. That's something you can't keep going because you're living like a bucker. And so what happens to the buckers, they just snap. And when they snap, that subconscious comes out. It all comes out. And when it comes, it's a nightmare. And so by the time they have spent years building money, having children, building the house, all the things, I've heard the stories, the bucker snaps. And when the bucker snaps, everything's gone. The children are thrown aside, the money's thrown aside, and everything that ever made peace and contentment and happiness is gone because the chaos has come. And that's called a bucker. Bucker, because they're bucking their minds and they're bucking their subconscious mind specifically. And when they do that, they're going to snap. And so it's a very sad, sorry thing.
Yeah.
And so I have to teach this. I have to explain what a bucker is to these people because they've never heard that before. They don't know what it is. So I explain this all in my book with This Is Not the Woman I Married.
Yeah.
But the whole idea of a book is there's a whole bunch of ideas in there. And when people are ready, they're ready. When they're not, they're not.
Yeah. If your book was on, well, I'm sure it is, but if we were looking at your book on Amazon right now, what is like a one-liner that you would say that encapsulates your book?
It's your midlife crisis and what a husband can do about it. That's the one liner. The subhead. Her midlife crisis and what her husband can do about it.
I really like the title. I don't know why. I just really like it. I like it a lot. And the subject matter is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing so many just nuggets of wisdom. Really, it was very interesting to hear. I knew that you were going to be really awesome to chat with, and you're funny. It's been really great. Our last question for you is, if you could share a message with humanity, any message at all, what would you tell them?
Leave fear and move to love. Find a way. Believe you can and find a way. Leave fear and move to love. That be the message. That's the most important. And when people ask the question, how? You ask your higher self how, and it will give you an answer. It won't be an answer that's sudden, but it's going to come to you. Everything's in your mind. Everything. And which start realizing nothing's out there. Everything's in here. That'd be my second important message. Nothing's out there. Everything's in here. It would take me time to explain that, but I won't do that.
We'll do a part 2. That's an excellent double message there. Thank you for the value, the 2 for 1 there. I love it. Where can everyone find your work online, social handles, all that good stuff?
So you can savethismarriage.com and Larry Bilotta on YouTube. There's a channel for Larry Bilotta. So there's a lot of videos there.
Awesome. Well, everyone, be sure to go and check out his links and check out his book as well. Go buy the book because it sounds like you men might need it. Us ladies need other things, and probably maybe we should read the book too, though, because we'd get kind of an insight. But I don't know. What do you think? Is it cheating? Are we allowed to read the book too?
Because it's so heavily directed towards men, women have to be really curious to be interested in it long enough to actually get through it.
So then the question is, when are you going to write a book for women?
Well, I've already written it, but I don't think I'm going to publish it.
Why not?
Well, hey, I don't think I have enough women that are that hungry to want to read this on top of all the books that already exist.
I disagree, Larry. I totally disagree with that. There is just like a flood of social content
that
about.
Title is "This Is Not the Man I Married."
Oh, dude, that would do so well. Are you kidding me? Oh my goodness. Every woman would want to read that. I don't know a woman that would not want to read that. Even the non-married ones would want to read that. I mean, ask Hallmark Channel. We'll put a poll out. I'm telling you, ladies, how many of you want to read a book called "This Is Not the Man That I Married"?
This is not the man I married.
I mean, think about it. If we watch that show on Oxygen, the one that's like, "Who the blank did I marry?" And, the ones where they kill each other, and you're just like, I would read it, Larry. I would read it. So just publish it because I'll read it. You have given us a lot of insight into marriage today, and you've brought things that we would not have previously considered. So on behalf of all of humanity, thank you so much for being here.
You know what you've done is you're super smart and super alert and super bright, and you're very, very aware. And like I had a hard time following you. You're so aware. Like, wow, am I really getting this super awareness? Like, this is really good. And that with a charismatic personality on top of it, that's like a winning combination.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. What I heard from that was I'm confusing.
No, you've got these advanced ideas that you find ways to insert them into conversations.
Yeah, I attribute that to isolation, I guess. Growing up very isolated and just in my own thoughts all the time.
Yeah. You got an early start of being a thinker.
Yeah, but I also got an early start to the trauma too. So there is that. Above all, I think, the journey and getting to where you are now, and I guess hearing from other people like, oh, you're advanced, or, oh, you're doing really well despite, the trash cans on fire. But that's encouraging. And it makes me feel good to know like, oh, even though, everything was terrible before, now it has a very positive trajectory. And, regardless of what someone might think of me or of the show or of, just whatever it is I'm doing, I could give a rat's, I could give a rat's behind.
Suffering creates learning. And so you are thoroughly in that world. Suffering creates learning.
I'm the mayor.
And you did that. You're the mayor. Yes, you are.
Well, again, appreciate you being here. Just a final thought to everyone. Marriage is difficult, but if you're a man, Larry can help you figure it out. We'll see you guys next week on another episode of Humanity 2.0 podcast. Be sure to click all the buttons and subscribe to all the channels. This show did move from my production channel to its own channel. And then be sure to go and follow Larry and check out his stuff. And make sure you leave a comment on his videos that he needs to write a book for women. Larry, all the women are coming after you. Hopefully we can do a part 2. I would really like that. And then we can just like compile a ton of questions from men and women for you and then have you answer them. What do you think?
All right. I love it.
We're going to do it. Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, my regards to your wife and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.
Have the best day of your life.
Okay.
All right.
Will do.
Take care.
Humanity 2.0 podcast is brought to you by Vanessa the Vivacious Productions. Want to be a guest? Visit the link in the episode description for future guest opportunities. Ready to podcast like a boss? Join Podmatch and begin your Podmatch journey via the link also listed in the description. Subscribe to Humanity 2.0 podcast on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and more. Follow and help support the show by buying Humanity a cup of coffee via buymeacupofcoffee.com/Humanity 2.0 podcast. Above all, don't forget to be good to other humans. See you guys next time.